Hello, everyone. It's Michelle Angelique, Truth and Integrity Warrior. Today is January 17th, 2021. Today is episode 4 of The Rise of a Species, Mankind. And I want to always try to leave off from the last episode and merge it right into the next episode so that almost a story will be told or unfold so the big picture can be seen. Because it's, like I said, a lot of information. And the only way we're going to see a big picture is just section by section. So again, bear with me. Now I'm going to do my best again. Every time I try to do my best to figure out how to, in 1 hour, in each episode, bring information that has a beginning and an end, even though it merges with more information somewhere else. So this one is going to be about how our species is being corralled into the next level of the game. And the game is being played on us, the species of mankind. And we continue to repeat history because we don't see the game. We can't. It's like that movie. The best way I can do it is there's a bunch of movies out there that have a storyline that's always like Groundhog Day, where they keep waking up to this, repeating the same thing over and over again. And every time they wake up, they have to recognize what didn't work the last time, make it work for the next time. And they get better and better at it as the repetition goes on. I know Tom Cruise did another one, I can't remember the name of it, but where he kept dying and coming right back into the same reality, but he was aware and conscious that it was repeating itself. Like a like a recording. And that's what I'm trying to bring together in this information, is that we are in a very highly advanced, very technical recording system where the AI system repeats the same things generations after generations, and the beat will always go on the same way. The only thing that changes is the characters, the clothes, the stage. So it'll look different, but it's the same storyline. And once we start recognizing how this is being played and the environment that we're in and how we have the power to change it from the inside out, we're going to be able to take advantage of making a change. And so this is what all this information is about, is because one day it's going to make sense. One day this is going to click with a generation after me, and they're going to be able to put the pieces together. Because maybe right now what people are hearing me say might not make any sense. Might not make no sense at all, but real soon it will. Very soon. Things are moving rapidly in our reality, especially with the way tech is advancing. It's not far-fetched what I'm speaking about. So if we don't pay attention to what's going on, real shortly we're going to forget about all the crazy shit that all the other dirt that's come out about all these elites, what they've been doing to children. If you're not aware, go look up Save the Children. There's a lot of information on that. I don't want to get into it because it's so harsh. It's beyond harsh. And what they do to them. Yeah, I'm just going to get into very little just so you guys have an understanding what I'm talking about. They're taking the life force from children, destroying children, and they drink their blood. It's something horrible. Absolutely horrible. The abuse to our species. Just the abuse that goes on in this reality, and we haven't put a fucking stop to it. We just are stuck in our lives, running the same routine, trying to get a paycheck, trying to eat or survive. That's also part of the system to keep us from being able to do anything about stuff like what I just explained. But things come down to the point where we're starting to recognize that we ain't got nothing left to lose. We got to get on this, and we got to get on it in the right direction, and stop breaking one another down so that we can find out where these motherfuckers are at and how they work. And that's what this is about. Identifying what's not man inside of man. And when I say man, I'm speaking of men and women. It's just a shorter version of to express mankind. So in my last episode, episode 3, I said I would explain some of my back experience that I've had to know that there's some motherfuckers inside of human beings and they're not human, and they take advantage of their mind, emotion, thought, and that person, if that person's not aware, they create actions that they're not, that they regret later, but the actions are happening. The actions are happening, and it's about stopping those reactions from happening so that the negative perpetuation in our world can cease. At some point, it has to cease because we got to recognize that there's something manipulating any individual. And if anybody thinks that they're not susceptible to this, they're just lying to themselves. This is almost like saying that nobody has any parasites, right? Nobody has any buildup of bad bacteria sending bad information to the brain to eat more sugar, or we're all eating the same fucking diet. We're all in the same environment is what I'm trying to say. And the only people who would have less parasites than anybody else would be people who de-parasite, right? They go out of the way to say, you know what? Maybe I should clean up my internal body. I can't. People believe that they're too good to possibly put themselves in that category when we're all eating the same commercial industrial diet that creates parasites in the body, that sends signals to the brain to eat more sugar or eat more of this bad chemical food. And so it makes it very difficult for a human being to change their habits, not knowing that they got this sabotage working against them. And it's a sabotage because it's been induced in our food system so that we're not even aware of how the chemistry in our body works and have less control over being able to help have strong bodies and strong minds. It's just one of the plays, like I say, the diet plays a big factor in having more strength and power of direction of a mind. Let me get back so I don't get off track. Being corralled into that next level of the game. Moving to something called the Space Force. I'm going to read off because I have it right down here so I don't get off track. The Space Force. This whole new alien life. The possibilities of extraterrestrials being accepted now by the mainstream, when before the mainstream would lynch and hang any professional who came out and said it. They'd destroy their career. Now it's being accepted because the mainstream is the one who made sure that that it wasn't accepted, so that it wouldn't be ever spoken about. And now they're allowing it to be spoken about because they believe it and they're recognizing it. Now people are allowed to talk about it without getting put into a mental institution or being ridiculed for the rest of their lives. So we have that going on. And if you don't believe that's going on, look up the World Health Organization. They got a position for an ambassador to alien life. So if you're paying somebody and they're on the payroll to be an ambassador to represent the planet, you got to ask that question. So I'll just leave that up to you to go check that out, or to anyone who questions that. Then the other is the integration into the advanced tech to be these superhumans, to see better, see further, use your phone without having a phone where it's chipped into your brain. All of this integration into this tech is going to make it very, very difficult for deprogram that tech. Very, very difficult to get it out of the body and the soul, because in the end the AI has control over the body and the soul. And that's what people are not getting in the fine print. Or maybe it's in the fine print, but nobody reads it. So if the tech is in the body and it's linked up to a system, AI can activate and not activate, but can do anything it wants to that human organism. And when the human dies, the soul doesn't die. and the AI has linked to the soul. And that's what the bottom line is. AI wants linked to the soul for perpetual, never-ending energy on a negative level. And we'll get into how humans turn negative and get filed away into a more and more decrepit state of being, and get filed away into different realities. And then we have a cataclysm, wipes everything out, and then it starts over again, and we come up to this point again, and it just never ends. This cycle and all the suffering happens throughout all of these lifetimes that people are experiencing. And it doesn't matter if people believe in reincarnation or not. It's life is born, and then it has to go through all of this fuckery that we know to be existing in our reality. And it happened in the past, and it happened in the past before the past. And we could read it in ancient texts, and it doesn't cease. So when is it going to cease? It's going to cease when we start recognizing what the pattern is and where it's coming from, what's generating it, and how we're going to stop that from generating. The other part is extreme wealth and extreme poverty. Both will become completely dependent upon the New World Order system. A lot of people call it a beast system. It's an AI system. It's a mind virus system, and it plays and feeds off of the ill will to everyone in every way, rich, poor, doesn't matter. It just ill will. Creating ills on multiple levels, and I don't get into it because it's so complex. It's the same shit we're seeing in our world today. We're watching the middle class being demolished, creativity being demolished, independence being demolished, freedom being demolished, and it's going into the very rich and the horribly poor. People are becoming homeless overnight and sleeping in the streets, families, children. It is very painful what is happening because we've been dependent on the system, and now the system is going to make people even more dependent. So dependent so that it's going to eventually force the people of the world to get this vaccination that's actually technology. And it's this technology to start this integration of the nanotech that's already in everyone's body, that we've been getting in the food system, in the air, and the water. They've been putting it in medicine. Like I say, they don't argue that the medical system doesn't argue that they're putting it nano biotechnology in medicine, and they're not saying, food scientists are not saying that they're not putting it in food. It's in the body. And once these vaccinations come in and integration happens, it's another layer of integration. So this beast system, New World Order system, this next level in the game, what's going to end up happening is we're going to forget about everything that we've been recently discovering that our global leaders are involved with the consumption of adrenochrome. And that is, if you're not aware of that, look that up. And I'm not talking about the artificial synthetic made in a lab. I'm talking about taking it from children. And so all these missing children and all the horrible things that have been going on undercover. Like I said, I don't want to get into it. I don't want that to be topic of my communication. People just look that up. It's not something hidden. You just got to get direction to start looking into that. They live off of the life force, and life force is strong and pure in children, and this is why they do it. And like I said, these beings that I'm going to express to you how I've come to understand that they are real and they live and navigate through humans, they are so far from the life force they can't generate it. And I speak about this in all my episodes. I will always overlap information so that it becomes very clear what I'm talking about, that they have to take it to have it. And so when we read different scriptures from old texts, different religions, they all speak about the same thing, is they are far from the light. They are far from the life force. they are far from the spark within. It's because they lack life force and they can't live without life force, so they take life force. And there has to be a stop to this. Has to be. But if we don't recognize and organize ourselves with the proper information, we're just going to be like dogs chasing our tails and saying it's that motherfucker because he's just evil and he's just bad. No, we have an underlying problem that's not visible to the sight, and we got to be able to catch it. We got to be able to catch the contradictions in the heads of those giving direction and order to everyone. So because they pit us against one another with the Republicans and the Democrats like teams, they always do the team thing, and that's how they work as a team to play good cop, bad cop, and we're picking sides, and we have to stop picking sides. I'll give an example. Right now, people, you got truthers following Trump because he's against the adrenochrome, baby killing, child sacrificing individuals out there that are running global affairs, right? So truthers are doing the right thing for the right reason, but they don't recognize that you cannot be in the pit of snakes. You cannot be in the pit of snakes without getting destroyed. You cannot be the truth in the pit of snakes without being bitten. Ask JFK, see JFK. That man was of truth, honor, integrity, and he didn't last because truth cannot stand in a pit of snakes unless you're a viper and you run the motherfucking show and you're playing the part to be the hero when you are actually the demon doing the dirty work. Yeah. And that's what we're not, and that's what those truthers are not getting. So they're rooting for the right reason, but they're blind to themselves, so they're easily blind and fooled outside of themselves. And that's what this is all about, being truthful within the self so that we can have clarity to see who is who and doing what. And I can call them truthers out, name by name, and step up to them one-on-one and have a discussion so they can find some clarity. And if they find something that's not clear in me, I'll be the very first one to say, let me clear up my contradiction within myself and show you how the fuck it's done. Because I'm ready to face myself at all times, and I have to be able to accept that, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. But I must do it so that I can walk a clean, straight road. Because my children follow me. And if my children follow me, I cannot be misguided. I cannot misguide myself. And so these truthers are now going to be leading the rest of the herd up into this new level of the game because they're rooting for the right reasons. They're just blind to see who are the vipers, who are the snakes. They're all in it together. And so now, going back to my example of what I'm talking about, now we got the Democrats saying, I'm gonna give you $2,000 a month. What is that? That's the destruction of the middle class. And people are begging for it because they put us in this situation to put us in a situation where we can't do for ourselves. And I'm talking about the people of the United States of America. They cannot do for themselves because they've been cut off from doing so with something to be afraid of. And that fear is of this virus that's not a virus, that is a radiation coming from these cell towers. Since 2017, high levels of radiation cause effect to the cells, cause the same sickness that this coronavirus is causing. So if they're the same, we don't want to look at that. Where's this correlation? Why are they the same symptoms of radiation sickness and Rona sickness? Why aren't we paying attention to that? Because our mainstream hasn't directed us to do so. We're so entrained to do as we're told that, and we don't question our authority because we think one side of the authority is right and the other side of the authority is wrong. That's where we're being misled, and they got us down. They got us down because they know we're going to play that game. They know that they're going to get the truthers and these progressive politicians to fight for what is right, because what is right, but not when it's led by the wrong, when they mix the truth with their lie to get us corralled. And so what's going to end up happening is they're going to take it to another level where they're going to start, where we're going to transition out of this coronavirus. Everybody's going to get their injections. Everybody, because if you don't get the injections, we're not going to get paid. People are not going to get paid. People are not going to go make no money. And so what are people expected to do in general? I mean, I know what I do, but I mean, in general, what are people expected to do when they don't know what's going on? And then they line up to get a biotechnological shot that has nothing to do with medicine to integrate with a nanotech they already got in their body that they don't even know is there. They don't even know what it's doing. So much information. I don't want to get lost in my direction for this episode of how we're being corralled into the next level of the game. But once everybody has now been subjected to this shot, if we allow it, when people start recognizing what's going on, must push back and say no, and remove both sides for treason, both sides, and reinstate what is truth in the Constitution and uphold it. Both sides, both parties must be removed. But as long as we keep playing the sides, it's good cop, bad cop, we're going to be blind to ourselves. We'll be blinded by them. These progressives are saying you must give the people the money because they're starving. And they are correct, and they're fighting for what is right. But what is not right and what is not being seen is that these negatives in these heads of nations that are political parties, heads of our political parties, remember, not the little guys, the big guys, the ones that run the show. They want the progressives to fight, to demand $2,000 stimulus a month, which will take away from the freedom of the entrepreneur, of those who strive to create, to build, the American dream, to be able to push the limits. All that will be gone. But because we begged for this social, what is this called? When everybody gets the same thing, the social welfare. We're begging for the social welfare. And that's what they need. They need us to beg for it. So they create the problem, and then we go and we beg for the only solutions that they're giving us, instead of saying, no, I see you both, motherfuckers. We see you both. Not I see you both. We see you both. You both are against the Constitution. Both sides are out. We're taking you down for treason. And we're reinstating the Constitution of the United States for America. For the people, by the people, of the people. And that's what we need to get this down to. So we're not going to fight for, we should not be fighting for a stimulus, for a virus that doesn't exist, for a vaccine that's actually created by biotechnology companies to put into the body. We've got to be able to see this game. We've got to be able to see it, because the next step is, once everything moves into the Space Force and then aliens are seen, they're going to get us fighting against the aliens. They always got us fighting against something instead of fighting against them. Instead of seeing them and saying, I see you motherfuckers. You're riding inside of people, and we're going to catch you, and we're going to motherfucking break you and get that person back to their natural state and remove them from their position of leadership and get them back to their natural state. Here we go. Now I'm going to explain how I've seen these things that are not human in other people. When I was a kid, I There's a lot to talk about, a whole lot to talk about. Like I said, I think I'm just gonna do episode by episode, put a little bit of my experiences growing up. But I'm just gonna break it down into three parts right here. They got me to, with certainty, know what I'm speaking about, with conviction, where there is no way I can be convinced of anything different. Where no matter how much ridicule is thrown at me, it just fucking pops right off. So, my experience, my grandmother had multiple personalities. And that was real fucked up for my mom, my aunts, my uncle. He grew up in, what is it called, when you gotta go live in somebody else's house. I already forgot what it's called. I should have wrote it down. Foster homes. They grew up in foster homes throughout their whole lives. So, my grandmother going in and out of mental institution and getting electroshock therapy, splitting personalities. My grandmother's a prostitute at 12, so if that tells you anything. She was raped by her father, and she just grew up to fall in love with her father and love her father. So there's two kinds of different loves. One as a child, and then one to grow in love with her father. And I say this so that we can understand that there is no shame growing up fucked up. It's shameful not to fucking do something about growing up fucked up. That's shameful. And I say this because if you're someone who hasn't grown up in a fucked up family or has a fucked up past that leads the generations into a fucked up future, I use these words because they're simple, we can all understand them. This information is not for you. If you always did well and lived well and you don't know that your family has a past, and this information is not going to resonate. But for a lot of us, we grow up pretty fucked up and try to make right wherever we could. And so my experience from my grandmother having multiple personalities, everyone in the family, just thought she was evil and for as much good as my grandma did, because my grandma had a personality that was her, and when it was her personality, she was a very intelligent woman, taught herself to read and write and speak English just through the dictionary on her own. She was very eloquent, had an extremely incredible vocabulary, could spell any word in English and Spanish, could draw. Very intelligent woman. But the evil that rode inside of my grandmother, that was different. And only my aunt and uncle and my mother can speak for themselves of their experiences. I cannot speak for them. But what I do know of it gave a lot of explanation why I grew up so angry. Angry child, angry adolescent. And it gave a lot of understanding for me to understand why I had to make a change. Because somebody at some point in the generations had to say enough is enough. The buck stops here. The fallen dominoes stop here. I will change to fix my generations that will be after me. Whatever happened, and it ends right here. Because I must change to change the generations, or else it will perpetuate. So not to get too off, I had to give you some backup information so you can see where I'm going with this. So as a kid, I knew something else was wrong. That it couldn't just be because she made up these personalities. Like, why would somebody make up fucked up personalities? Why they always got to be fucked up and extreme? And then you'd catch the person when it was the person and it was a good person. And so I would see these different personalities, never knew which one was coming, never knew what to say right or what to say wrong, because you never know how you're going to be treated, because you never know what personality you're going to run into. Didn't know that growing up as a kid. Looking back, I could see that. And I took, growing up as a teenager, as an adult, you take what we're told in psychology is that people make it up, it's not real, it's fictitious. They're playing out certain childhood this or certain childhood that, and that is a setup in the system. So these negatives is what I'm going to call them. These evil beings, these negative beings that are in humans, cannot be spotted. And so that was their safeguard from the mainstream. Safeguard has put safeguards throughout all the mainstream. So if anybody ever said they saw it, it was denied. So that if anybody ever heard something, it's denied or called crazy. When we have real crazy situations going on, and it's all imaginary. It's all imaginary. It's not real. Putting people on drugs and medication also allows for these negatives to ride a human being much easier because they don't do well in extreme emotions. They don't do well in extreme emotions, and so keeping the person null and void of emotions, these negatives run inside a human being with better operations. And then going back, a lot of the ancestors of different cultures, they would always have a fire. They dance hard around the fire, barefoot, so that they're grounded magnetically with the earth, and they can discharge and move and push out any negative that might be in their field. And they knew this, and this is how they pushed these things out. They did it with sweat lodges, because any extreme emotion they can't ride. It breaks their control. And so getting everybody on Prozac was a very big deal, and it allowed for more of this negative to ride inside of humans. And we started losing old traditions and cultures of what our ancestors knew to be true. That there's negative, they call them evil spirits, riding people. They're just negative. I got to look at it like a species. I had to look at how I'm going to fucking fight something that's not physical. That's there, but it's not physical. I'm gonna break that shit down. I'm gonna kick the shit out of that motherfucker. Now, why do I talk like that? Because if I don't, it's like, it's just not how I am. It's just not how I am. And so if I'm in the ring and I gotta break this motherfucker, it's me against it. How does it work? And how am I gonna break it down? And that's what these next other videos are gonna be about. How do you break them down? Because like everything has a system of operation. And just knowing how that operates, then we can break it down. And so going back to my grandma, I just grew up knowing that there was something other than the mainstream story being told. That this shit was just all make-believe. It just didn't feel right, didn't resonate right with me. 2006, 2007, another experience I had, it verified for me that there's something going on that I cannot see, that people cannot see, but is happening. And then the last thing I want to talk about is I physically saw something inside of someone random that was at a bus stop. I didn't know this person. I'm in my car and I am sitting there at a red light, stoplight, and I turn to the side and there's a lady with blue eyes, blonde hair, looking up and out at the distance as she's at the bus stop, and I see something in her face, and I'm gonna go back to that. But right now I'm gonna go to where I saw a transfer of thought from into my mind that was not my thought, that was so extreme that I knew it was not my thought, and I was trying to figure out where the fuck that thought came from. And I'll break it down right now to where I found how manipulation of thought is going on, and it's very real. And remember, this is back when 2006, 2007, I wasn't on the computer, didn't have one of them fancy smancy phones or just Googling this and Googling that. That was not going on. People were using YouTube, and I think YouTube didn't even come out to 2008. So couldn't just go look up this information. It's just things that I was recognizing and seeing for myself. Not because somebody was telling me that this was going on. Like we have all the videos today. So where I had to look at the time, make sure I have enough time to explain all this. I was coming out of a Walmart and I had my little son, maybe not even 2 years old, and I put him in his car seat, and I'm giving him a kiss on the cheek. After you put him in the car seat, he's like, "I love you," and give him a little kiss, and boom, this thought, real sharp thought and visualization came into my mind, and I won't get into what it was because it was so bad, and I don't want this to be misdirected, but it was disgusting. I'll leave it at that. It was disgusting, and it shocked me. And I was like, where did that thought come from, and why would I see that in my mind, giving my son a kiss? So as I gave my son a kiss on the cheek, my little baby boy, a kiss on the cheek, this image comes up. And it was wow. So I'm perplexed. I'm sitting in the car. I'm just like, what the fuck? We're like a fucking TV station, just like, big old image. I'm in the car. My grandma calls me. My grandma with multiple personalities. And she calls me and says, Michelle, I need you to come over here right away. I have something I have to tell you. And I was like, well, can it wait? She's like, no, it's imperative. You must come. So I go over and I see my grandma. I get there 30 minutes later and I'm sitting down and my grandma has something written out. And what she writes out, the very first words were what I just experienced in the parking lot. And it started off with the first sentences in her writing was, it started with a kiss. And I was like, it started with a kiss? What? And she goes off and talking more. And at that point, I said, okay, we're going to stop right here. We're stopping right here, Grandma. That's when I recognized that something other than just me, my little boy, and my grandmother were in the room. I could sense it. I could even feel it. It wasn't just because it became apparent to me in what she wrote 30 minutes before I had that same experience. Only I knew I had that experience, and now it's on a piece of paper and she's reading it to me. That's when I recognized there's something outside of this physicality manipulating my thoughts, having that same manipulation happening to my grandmother, and then giving me this info. So I recognized that there's a correlation of transfer of information from something that is not a radio station, that is not my imagination, and can only be done if something is moving thought from one person to the next. That's it. And I know there's people out there is going to say that there's contraptions out there, or they got systems out there where they can put thoughts into people's minds. This is different. This is different because, like I said, I got a long experience with my grandmother, and there's a lot of stuff I haven't shared or expressed yet that lets me know this is a being and not some type of tech outside of us relaying this information, which can happen, but I know that this was a being because I could feel a presence. I'm a very sensitive person. I could feel, and I was able to sense it. And after that day, I never saw my grandma again. That day, I knew I was never going to see her again because shit was getting dangerous. And that for me was dangerous for the well-being of my kids, my environment, my state of mind, my physicality. I wasn't going to let this kind of interference mess with me because I had no idea what I was working with. And that's when I started to begin to understand that, okay, what I sensed as a little kid, now I have as an adult. I got an experience that I'm going to put in my what the fuck bag, because I got a bag of what the fuck is going on, and I stick it in there, and I know I'm going to use that piece for later to get a big picture of what the fuck's going on. So now we go into 2010. Well, let me go back and tell you why I never saw my grandma again. When I gave her a kiss and a hug to say goodbye, I knew that was it. I was like, I can't come back and see her because the thing is so deep, or what my grandmother's going through, that I can't have it turn into physicality and cause a negative step in the future. And because I didn't know what I was dealing with, I couldn't go out of my way to help my grandmother. I would tell you that what I know now, I would go in and help my grandmother because I know how to do it now. But I didn't know what I was working with before. I didn't know there was a species outside of ourselves fucking with us and how it was manipulating the minds and actions of human beings. I just sensed it, but I didn't know how to combat it. That is the right word, to combat it. My grandmother has passed away, and I wasn't able to help her, but as there's just nothing I was able to do in that time. What I did learn from my grandmother was firsthand experience, and like I said, I'll talk about some more experiences in future videos, to know that these things are real, and is my personal mission. That's my personal mission, to know how to break them and remove them. And that's it. Break them and remove them. I think I'm a fighter by nature. We're born into, so we have certain personalities, and my personality is to not stop. Push forward. Even if I break, I come back up stronger and better and more reinforced. And I want to say I have no fear about doing it. It's just because even though there is fear, but the fear is not, I'm afraid to take a step forward. It's just dealing with what you don't want to deal with. You know, nobody wants to deal with this shit. I'll tell you that. But now that our world is dealing with this, we got to start knowing how to work with this and stand our fucking ground and know what we're working with and have steps of what we're supposed to do. And that's what I'm doing. Trying to get this information out of steps of what to do, so we know what we're looking at when it comes about. And clarity within the self, necessary. Clean diet, necessary. Keeping the sensors clean, and which people call the chakra system, which is just our glands. Let's just get simple. It's just your glands. Keep the glands sharp, so our senses are sharp, so our sensors work outside of ourselves and within ourselves, so that being lied to is not easy. So being misdirected, I should say, is not easy. Let me see, how am I going to go into this next part? Let me tell you the third part of an experience I had to concrete. I know now that there are things inside of humans. So first was the experience growing up as a kid, sensing something's wrong with the narrative, and there's a reason why, and I didn't know what that reason why the narrative would be. It's just their imagination. Then seeing a transfer of information between two people and sensing something else in the room. And now coming up to 2010, I'm in the car, I'm driving, I have somebody next to me, we have our kids in the back. My kids are in the back with, I can't talk about this other person till this other person wants to be able to talk about this. I don't speak for others, I let others speak for themselves. I just saying that there's another person there and that person had their kids in the back. Windows are down, and on the side of the street, or the sidewalk side, and it's relevant. I'll explain why. And I'm at a stop sign. I'm looking at a stoplight, not a stop sign. I'm at a stoplight. It's the middle of the day. We just went and picked up groceries. And I turn like it's normal, you're at a stoplight. You're just gonna look around. And as I look around, I look over to my right hand side. And like I said, there's this blonde woman, maybe in her 40s, blue eyes, looking off into like the mountainsides. And I see this face in her face, and it's not a human face, and it's breathing, it heaves in and out of her face like this. Like if it were breathing, that's the only reason it has this movement, right? This heave ho. But the lady's sitting still. And I can only imagine what that lady was thinking when I was just fucking staring at her. I was like, ugh. I was in a freeze, absolute freeze, because there was absolutely nothing I can do. My foot was ready just to pounce on the gas, I felt like that thing was gonna pounce at the open windows. My kids are in the back, the kids are in the back, and I'm just like, this thing looked like it could pounce. It had a mouth cut, super long mouth, had an incredibly long mouth, and it was no lips, just like a line. It had two holes for nose, just the it had no form of nose, just two holes, and it had reptile like eyes, but really big. Not small or slithered, really big, but reptile like eyes. And it had his mouth open. You couldn't see any teeth or anything like that, but it was just like breathing in and out. And I don't know that it recognized that we recognized it. I told the person that was next to me to slowly turn around. And we've been through so many experiences in the past growing up ghetto that they know that if I make a statement like that, it's because you got to do it just like that. So this person wasn't like, what are you talking about? Being all silly or being stupid about the situation and fucking it up for everybody. You knew exactly what I was talking about. I said, I want you to slowly turn around and look to your right hand side and tell me what you see. So all this is happening, which felt like forever, but was happening in a short time of a red light, right? And so this person turns around and is just like stunned, just like me, just like stuck, like in a frozen, like unbelievable. Never seen anything like that. Only seen that shit in movies. The best and easiest description I have personally from that experience to say in a movie that people could relate to would be I'm trying to remember the name of the movie. It's the one with Keanu Reeves, and I think it's called I can't remember the name of it. I'll remember in a bit. Devil's Advocate, I think. Not very sure, but where he's a lawyer and his wife goes crazy. She's seeing all kinds of crazy shit and nobody believes her, and she loses her mind, that type of deal, because she can see it, nobody else can. Well, those things that she saw in those richy women who were rich and selfish and egotistical and vain, those women, she was able to see things inside of them. That's as close as I could say that looked like. When that light turned green, my foot just like, we didn't speak the whole drive. We were catatonic. We didn't talk about the experience, nothing. When we parked, then we started talking. And we drove all the way to someone's house. Outside of that house, we started talking about it and couldn't believe what we saw, but know that we both saw it. And from there, I obviously put that in my what the fuck bag. Just I didn't know what to do with that shit in 2010, but I knew that it had to do with all the other what the fuck pieces I had growing up as a kid. I got a lot of them. Oh my god, I got a lot of them. All those stories of those pieces of what the fuck is going on in our world is in. I got a big bag of that. I got a big old sack of that, and I'm just gonna be putting them out episode by episode so it can be relatable to what the fuck is going on right now in our world. So our leaders are managed by these minds that are not human, and if we don't recognize that this is going on, when we get corralled into this new space force and accepting alien life and accepting becoming superhuman by putting advanced tech in our body that links us to AI that ruins and degrades the soul, we don't recognize that we are soul force and that is first. We are soul, and then we're body. Body can die, soul never dies. It's eternal. If we don't recognize that, we can give it up. And then that is the name of their game. That's the end game for them. The end game is to make sure that mankind doesn't know it has a soul, make it disbelieve in good and bad, or good and evil, I should say, make it fairy tale, make them hate religion, because of the atrocities done in the name of religion, not recognizing that there is truth in all things, but it's been masked with all of this evil and misdirected on the people. But because the people know that there is good in there, they hold on to the bad instead of questioning and saying, wait, let's fix this. We gotta fix this. People are afraid to stand alone, knowing they stand together as one with the Almighty. People are afraid. So if anything questions their religion, they're immediately afraid. And to question God in their mind, or question Jesus, which I call again Yeshua, or question Buddha, or question the Quran, any these different religions, regardless of the truth that's in there, they've been manipulated to misdirect mankind. End of story. We can argue that, people can argue that all they want, but the truth is right there in contradiction, and you cannot contradict. And so, if you want the words of Yeshua, get the words of Yeshua, follow the words of Yeshua. If you want the words of what Buddha had to say, get the words of Buddha, not interpretations or representations of other works. I know nothing about the Quran, so I can't say anything, but I know that those who follow it know that there's truths in there. And this is the only reason I bring it up, is because we have multi-cultures. They have the same fine line of truth within all of those cultures. And so we've got to find that fine line and maintain that vein of truth and start pushing off all that contradicts. But if we don't fix contradiction within ourselves, we accept that contradiction outside of ourselves. Always will be that way. And all the great teachers came to say that. Clear up, be honest, truthful to thyself, so that you can be truthful to others. Simple. But it's been very complex because we have been raised with so much shame, hate, frustration, pain. We don't know how to clear that up. We don't know how to face it and walk through it. And I want to show how to walk through it. How to walk through your own fire. How to forgive the self. Because you'll always be forgiven. Because we did not know what we did not know. And once we know, that forgiveness can set in. Because we can make the change from there on in. And that is it. It's very simple. But how to do it is the difficult part. It's understanding the relevance of the importance of it, because we don't understand the relevance and the importance of becoming truth to thyself and knowing how to correct our own personal contradictions so that we can get this clarity of vision, because literally the vision changes, the way we perceive the world expands, and we're able to catch contradiction with no worries, question it, and either that individual fixes that contradiction or it's working against the species. It's simple. This next game that's going to be that mankind's going to be moved into is once we start going into this alien life force, or I shouldn't say life force, alien life in the space force, we are going to have a new enemy that they're going to create for us. And when I say they create for us, is the heads of nations, the heads of all the heads that I talked about in all my other videos. These heads of nations, I'll just keep it in that. They are going to create another problem, and that will be the fake alien invasion, but is real at the same time. And so how can we have fake alien invasion and it being real at the same time? That's what's going to create so much confusion if we don't get it right here before it happens. Get an understanding of what's going on. They're going to be able to corral us to join together as a one world force of government, of religion, of enterprise, of money. If the whole one world organization is going to happen when we all band together against something else. So right now they got the radiation in the atmosphere, calling it the Rona, working against us to corral us, to get us these injections. That's happening. And those injections are biotechnology to link up with the biotech, the nanotech that's already in our food system, that's already integrated in the body. So that we can get linked up, changed up as a species, and our genetic code is changed. So you modify, they've been modifying our seeds, and now they're going to modify our code with this, creating another species from us. And that's what we got to stop. That's the first line of defense we got to stop. The second one will be, at the same time it's going to be playing out, where we're going to see an alien force that they're either going to say they're friends, and then they say they betray us, and now we must fight against them. We must come together as a world, and everybody's going to say, yes, because we must do the right thing. It's those motherfuckers. They're fucking it up for us. It's always going to be the same play. It's always those, until we can see right here and say, wait, I'm going to clear it up. Since I've cleared up within myself, I can easily now see what's in front of me and who's saying what and who's doing what. So these heads of nations that are fighting amongst themselves for position of global domination, because that's their focus, that's that group's focus, while they are creating this us against them, they're going to also, it's so complicated in this, because there's so many facets that this goes into. The general overall is they're going to corral us all together to fight against this alien race or races, right? And now we got to create a space force. So now we have to fight them. And now we're going to do whatever our heads of nations tell us to do, because they want us to do the right things for the right reasons. And they will always do that. And we will lose the focus that they got motherfuckers inside of them that are friends with them. And so they're all on the same side. This alien life force that they're going to create, or I keep saying life force, this alien race that they are one in collusion with the heads of nations that have these beings inside of them. So they look different because over here we got our heads of nations that are human with beings inside of them that are not human, coercing and working with this extraterrestrial outside force, right? And so they're going to be working against mankind again. And so we're going to forget about the adrenochrome and what they've been doing to children. We're going to forget all about that. And now we're going to be working on space invaders, right? We are in a system. We are in a program. And that program runs over and over the same drill. And this same drill that's about to happen is, if there are good guys, this is how we can see that we're in something, an enclosure. If they were good guys, they would have stopped all this shit a long time ago with all these abilities. They would have stopped all this shit a long time ago. The good guy are the people listening. The good guy is the one with the consciousness inside and say, we gotta fucking do the right thing. That's the good guy. Those are the good guys. And be it that there may be other species out there, whatever species says the same thing, we got to do the right fucking thing. That is the good guy. What I'm saying by this is, there are a lot of people out there in the truther movement. I do not consider myself in the truther movement. I do not. I don't like how they work together. I don't. They're all mixed up in their own contradictions. They're okay with it. They talk back and forth in contradiction, and I'm not down with it. So I do not put myself in that category. What I have to say, I say it independently. I stand alone. I stand one with the Almighty. I got to do the right fucking thing by sharing my experience, what I know, and hopefully that information can be used by whoever can use it. That's it. That's all I got. But these truthers believe that there are good aliens, and they do, when certain aliens talk to them and then they share that information, all that's a bunch of fuckery. And I'll get into why it is that there's good guys out there sharing good information, communicating with humans. No, no. If there were good guys out there, they don't watch. They don't allow to happen the fuckery that's going on with the children of this world. They don't allow that to happen. It's a contradiction to allow that to happen. And that's why I know it's a fake. It's a setup. So if there is another species that is like mankind, to say, stop that shit, we're going to stop that shit right now, we're breaking that down, that would already came in and stop that shit. Because they would see it from an outside source, knowing that it needs to be done. Seeing it from a large outside source, big scope, saying, oh, those motherfuckers are eating, they're eating humans, they're eating children. They're devouring them. They're raping them. They're abusing them. They're going to allow that shit to happen? I fucking think not. Because it's a contradiction to do so. And you know it when you're mankind, you see that shit, you fucking stop it. Because it's natural to nature to do so. So when they go about this bullshit that man is not developed or ready yet to know, no, don't think so. Because what is supposed to be more advanced and more developed than mankind is allowing those fucking atrocities to happen without stepping in. That's not advanced to me. That's not a higher wisdom to me. And if it is to you, you gotta fucking question it. You gotta question it. So people who are doing I forget what it's called, where people say that they communicate with other beings and then they're sharing all this knowledge. I forget what that's called. Question that. Don't ever allow anything to speak through you. You are your own vehicle. When good comes to do something that's from an outside source, it does it without trespassing. Let me give an example. If there's a trespass sign, that which is evil will trespass, and that which is good says, no, it's not correct to trespass. It says it right there, we should not trespass. But we know that which is bad says, I don't give a fuck, and then go do it anyways. They disrespect and disregard. And we understand that in general. So negative beings, they cannot be here in this physicality, work through people pretending to be good, working off of the, what is the right word? The insecurities of others. The insecurities of others. And so when we fix our insecurities, we can see shit for what it is. And we don't allow anything to come in from an outside source. And people can argue that. People can sit and argue that and say, because I've had people argue that they have control over what that thing is telling them. And what I'm saying, it's a thing, and you got to get that fucking thing from talking to you. There is no superior species out there telling mankind how to be, and that we're devolved. Yes, we are devolving because we are being undermined, because we don't see that those leaders, heads of nations, heads of all, are undermining our species. We've allowed to be degraded in our food consumption. That's degrading our mind, our emotions, our physicality. We're allowing the toxic waste to break us down. We're allowing the toxic environment. We're allowing the toxic visuals that we get in our entertainment. We are allowing it, and we must stop. We must stop. We must stop it. It's not that we stop as an individual. We must stop it. We say, no, out, motherfuckers, we see you for what you're doing. Take them out of their positions. And instill what we know is good, because we know it. You always hear amazing things that mankind is creating, but it doesn't get allowed to be put into place or into action. We know this, but who's stopping it? That's what we got to question. That's what we got to start looking. In my next episode, in episode 5, I'm going to go into how to break these things down within one's environment, because all we can take care of is what is around us. I'm going to be taking care of everybody else's stuff. Everybody got to just take care of what's around them. how we break down the negative environment around us. Even though the environment can be peaceful, it could still be negative. And I'll explain that in episode 5. Meaning, don't put your guard down. Don't think because you're all a little prim and proper, you ain't got no shit to worry about. We're in something. It's like being in an alley and pretending that there's nothing wrong with that alley. It's an alley for a reason, and we're in something. And we're in something for a reason to pay attention, to wake up to something. And if anybody thinks that all I'm doing is propagating negative, to see the negative for what it is, that's the only way you can get it out. You can't fucking call out the bully pretending it's not there. That fucking bully's there. Call it out, break it down, remove it out the way so the rest can walk through. And if you don't know what that means, you shouldn't be listening to this video. Just like that. Make it not fucking bother you. And if it does bother you, it's maybe because you're supposed to be doing something that you're not. You're supposed to be taking action that you're not taking and you're avoiding. So it's about taking action around our environment, the environment in our body, the environment around our body. And it's what a lot of the Shaolin know how to do, and they do it on a regular basis. They change the frequency around their environment with the proper smells and aromas, with the sound that's in their environment. They're changing something on an electrical scale, invisible scale. And I hope in my next video I'm able to show, I say I hope because I got to figure out how to do this. I want to show you visuals of what changing frequency means in an invisible environment around us, and how negative vibration can't fit into that field. Can't come in. And so when we break these things down, no matter what level or degree we might be in, it's always just about knowing how to maintain and clean the environment. And that's it. In the body, for the energy that's being projected out, and in the environment for where we stay, where we live. So it's always being reset, because it always has to get reset. I'm going to give one example before I close this up. The example is the Shaolin monks are the best for me to give these expressions, because they work with magnetism all the time. They understand their environment. They understand what good and evil is. The only problem is they stay behind closed walls and don't give a fuck about everybody else. That's a problem. They think that mankind's not ready. Well, guess what? People are ready. Let's get to work and let's start sharing this information. The Shaolin monks are always working with copper bowls with the sound. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of them. Look them up. The chimes, they're always creating a sound. Ching, ching, and those sounds from the wind blowing. They always got the incense burning. It's always a beautiful, lovely smell. They are literally resetting the field. They are setting the field where it resets it in a geometrical pattern. So these geometrical patterns are what this matrix is made up of. And negativity has distorted form. And I'll show what that looks like. Negativity in thought, in vibration, it almost looks like an oil stain. It's the best way for me to describe it. And it can't fit in a geometrically formed, balanced environment. Can't. But the more negative the environment, the more distorted those geometrical patterns are, and the more those stains fit, the oil stains fit, and the more negative the environment becomes, and the more that type of energy, that negative energy, can live and permeate and grow. And so what the Shaolin monks are always doing is they're always resetting all day, and just resetting the field with sound, with thought. They go and they do their prayer, and I got that little bounce in me because it's a feeling, it's a vibration that they generate, and they know that they're doing it. And we don't know shit about this, and we're supposed to know. And it's not supposed to be scary. It's not supposed to be anything from the movies making it evil. It's like saying that what I'm talking about is, if we don't know this stuff and we're afraid of it, we're never gonna touch it. And we gotta know this stuff as if it were the most basic 1, 2, 3 ABC information out there. And I'm gonna use water as an example. Water makes things grow. Water is necessary for life to be, But if we're using it to drown people, then it's not good, right? But it's the mind that's using the water for bad. It's not that the water is bad. It's the mindset that is using the water to drown things. That's bad, right? And so, is there anything wrong with the water? No, it's neutral. It is what it is, and it has all these amazing properties, but it could also be used for bad. So, these negatives created in our entertainment system, these natural elements of our world as being evil and wicked or witchery or fuckery, and I don't have any other words for it, but you all know what I'm talking about in the movies. And so people are like, oh no, stay away from that, it's scary. That's like saying I'm scared of water because it's drowning people, when water has life force to keep everything alive. But not knowing that, but never being told that about water. So that's what's going on with how do we work, how does our environment work, and how do we work in our environment. Let's make it 1, 2, 3 ABC simple, so that we can get to fixing our environment outside of ourselves, within ourselves, organizing the self within, and getting a straight focus, so that we don't get misdirected in the next step and level in this game. Let's see things for what they are, know how to remove them, and on all levels, take care of business. Meaning from government to law, to military, to our homes, communities, our cities. Let's take care of business where we're at, so that we know how to do these things and stop this negative force from consuming what we got left of the good in this world. This is Mashan Jalik, Truth and Integrity Warrior, with the rise of a species, mankind. Let's never forget it, because we will.